Started already.
Thank you very much.
Started.
No, it's what did this stuff?
Leave it there now. Leave it. See outside we are going. Yes. Ah, wow.
Unworthy, undeserving of such things, tears and all that stuff. But however, God, I managed to find my way back. Now, what your student needs to know, what they know. Hello, I can hear you. Hello, hello, Mr. Femi, we can't hear you. I can hear you now. I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you. So now, so the syllabus is just list of content, topics that your students
My recording.
So it depends on what you have as syllabus that you want to teach them. So this syllabus is like
Why my record?
them guide into what they are doing because you are not actually teaching them. Mr. Dixon, you are raising.
Chumba. I just don't want to over.
I don't think I can hear.
Hello. sọ̀rọ̀. Mhm.
Hello, everyone. My name is Absalam Akinisi, and I will be co-hosting this session. Sorry for the delay. It was due to some technical issues, but we are ready now. So if you can hear me, please type yes in the comment section. We'll be starting very soon. Awesome, very, very good. Please, our host, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Please send yes if you can hear me. Okay, great. Firstly, I'd just like to thank the whole team for having me. My name is Thobani Ndlovu. I come all the way from South Africa, the beautiful city of Durban. I really enjoy such initiatives. So when I got the opportunity to become a part of something like this, I was very excited. So thank you so much to the team for having me. I really believe in collaborating and making sure that everyone plays a role in making Africa a better place. So big ups to the organizing team. As I've said, my name is Thobani Ndlovu, and I believe that my sole mandate is to create a better version. So by profession, I'm an architect, I'm an author, and I'm the TEDx curator. So how everything basically comes together to formulate what my sole purpose or what I believe in is the fact that as an architect, I strive to design spaces that are gonna make the world a better place. And then as an individual, I strive to always um, make sure that I take the right steps or take steps to make myself a better version of myself tomorrow. And then with TEDx conferences, I always strive to start conversations that are going to help other people to become better versions of themselves tomorrow. So I'm a strong believer in that everything should always take steps to become better. Um, and so today I have the great privilege of presenting to you my first book, which is titled Leading Through the Mirror, which is basically about the concept of one being a leader to themselves. So I believe that everyone, before they are a leader to an organization or a leader to anything where they are given the platform to lead, they first have to become leaders to themselves. So that's what my book is about. And I released the book in the year 2017. And I believe that it's been doing very well. It actually exceeded my expectations because as a first book, I didn't think that it would do as well or be received as well as it has been. So just to dive into it, I'm not sure if there's a way of showing slides, but perhaps the team can just send everyone the slides after the session. But on my slides, the first slide I have is Trevor Noah. So Trevor Noah is probably one of our best exports as South Africans. I'm sure that at least 80% of the world will know who Trevor Noah is, or at least 60% of the world will know who Trevor Noah is, because of the wonderful work that he's done. And everyone would aspire and want to become a Trevor Noah in the world, or in the space that they are in. But you don't wake up and become a Trevor Noah. You start as a Mubego, as a Thobani, as a Ratiba, as a Pinky, as a William. Before you become a Trevor Noah, you're an ordinary human being with dreams and aspirations of where you want to go. But one of the things that will make you to actually get there, it's the hard work that you put in during the stages when no one can see you, when no one knows who you are. And so what the book basically touches on, it's things that will help you to understand who it is that you are and where it is that you're going. So the reason why I called the book Leading Through the Mirror was because just a simple concept. Every day we all wake up and go and take a shower, or we go and take a bath. And it's a very, very simple thing. But if you start thinking of it as your life and start taking the principles that you get from a daily activity, then you are able to help yourself to actually become better in everything that you do. So just the concept of waking up, going to the bathroom, taking a bath, and then going back to your room where you then get dressed or dress up to prepare yourself for where you want to go. If, let's say, you want to go to a Woolworths in town, I'm not sure if you have a Woolworths in Nigeria, but I'd like to think you do. But it's basically a supermarket. So if you are preparing to go to the supermarket, you take a bath, you go to a room, and you stand in front of the mirror. So you use the mirror to reflect how you look, and whatever truth you get from the mirror. If the mirror says you need to wipe your nose, if the mirror says your collar is out of place, you receive that as truth, and you take it as truth, and you fix those things that the mirror tells you should fix. So if we are able to take that simple concept into our everyday lives, and we're able to sit down with ourselves and try to think of things that we can improve for where we are going, for when we become a Trevor Noah, that is the presenter of the Daily Show or the producer of the Daily Show, and everyone knows who we are, that's where we want to go. But when we are unknowns, when no one knows about us, are we willing to fix the things that we are supposed to fix in order for us to be able to take up that platform of the Daily Show or being a Trevor Noah that everyone knows? So that's the concept of the book. And some of the themes that I actually start talking about in the book are things like self-awareness. So we all have different journeys in life. I, for instance, grew up with a single parent. And I know that that's a typical story of an African child, where you grow up without both parents, or you have one parent, and you have to make do with whatever teachings that you get from that parent. So I grew up with a single parent, and growing up being a guy with only a mother figure in the house, it gets interesting when you grow up and you start reaching your teenage years, and you start seeing yourself as a man. And you don't have a father figure in your life. So what helped me in that instance, or in those situations, was I was actually able to then look at other people that have father figures in their lives, and look at other figures who are male, and actually start drawing things from them from afar, or actually even go to them and ask them for advice. So being self-aware means that you are aware that there are certain things that you won't be good at. There are certain things that you won't have. You'll be able to understand your strengths. You'll be able to understand your weaknesses. So one of my strengths, the fact that I was raised around women who generally women are known to have a lot of empathy and are actually more in touch with their emotions. So I know for sure that that's where I actually got those characteristics. So you'll get to see that if you are able to sit down with me, I exercise a bit more empathy than you'll expect from a male. And that's because I spent a lot of my time around women. Um, so the things that I understood that I was supposed to be getting from a father figure, I was then able to draw from my friends' dads, and I was able to draw from teachers in school who were male, and those sessions with them were actually able to assist me to then be able to cover that gap uh, of not having a father figure present in my life. But also, I think perspective is a very key thing, because I've actually met people who grew up in a similar environment, and for them, what they do is they start thinking negatively about the fact that maybe their father left them at a very young age, so they can do whatever they like because no one likes them, or their father left them, so they don't feel that their father loves them. But for me, the perspective that I decided to take was that because I haven't had a present father in my life, then I have to be the one that will actually start doing that. So it actually pushed me to strive to become the person that my father couldn't be. And that's not to say that he wasn't present at all, but it made me feel that I have to actually be the best father that I can be. I have to be the best man that I can be. I have to be the best Thobani that I can be. So I think perspective plays a very big part in such situations when we go through them. And actually just understanding that everyone has a different journey in life. So if you look at other people, it's no use looking at someone else and thinking, oh, if only I grew up in an environment like they are growing up in. If only I had the things that they have. So that's where just self-awareness helps one as an individual to become a better person. You understand yourself, you understand that everyone has a different journey, and you work at your own pace without the pressure, especially of social media, because now we live in an age of social media and everyone feels the pressure to start living a life that they see on social media. And I've seen a quote that says, no one posts their failures on social media, so don't feel pressured. And I feel like that's so true, because when we post on social media, we filter everything that's negative and we try to post the highlights of our lives. So half the time now that we spend most of the time on social media, we end up posting, we end up feeling like we're not doing enough when we are comparing ourselves to other people's highlights. But what we're doing is we're comparing our daily lives to other people's highlights. So being self-aware will make you understand that you don't have to compare yourself to other people's highlights, because they don't post their every day as well. You have your own everyday, you have your own highlights. And just because your highlights aren't as eye-catching as someone else's highlights right now doesn't mean that your highlights aren't actually going to get to where you want them to be. So that's the first point, which is self-awareness. Very critical and very close to my heart, because I'm a strong believer in that. As much as I believe that each and every person is a leader to themselves, each and every person has a very different version, a very different journey. Uh, and as you begin to understand yourself better, it brings me to my second point, which is emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is known as EQ. And most people will understand IQ, which is basically intelligence or being book smart or being intelligence by measurable or easily measurable standards, which is what they use to actually measure academics at school or in varsity. So if you perhaps get like an 80% at school, your parents are going to say you have a strong IQ. But as the world is moving towards better standards, many people believe that the world is becoming better each and every day. It's research is starting to prove that emotional intelligence is actually becoming a more critical skill than IQ. So EQ is starting to become better or widely accepted more than IQ. And what EQ is it's basically just a balance between your rational mind and your emotions. And in my book, I actually dive into this by mentioning something that we I'm sure we all have come across. You know, if you do something and then someone is like, that wasn't a very smart thing to do. So how does an act comprise of an element of being smart? It's because they're talking about the fact that it wasn't an emotionally smart thing to do. So most of the time when we act, we don't think if what we're doing actually is a fruit of how emotionally intelligent we are. So the minute we become aware that our actions are a result of how emotionally intelligent we are, then we actually start calculating our actions better. So this comprises of how we manage our behavior. It comprises of our reactions and how we react in certain instances. And a great example that I always make is if you think of the 2006 World Cup final, and I'm a big soccer fan, and the team that I support is Liverpool. So if there are any Liverpool supporters in the house, then big ups to you. But if you think of 2006 World Cup final, FIFA World Cup final, which was played between France and Italy, and you think of a moment where Zinedine Zidane, who was the captain of France, head-butted Marco Materazzi, who was an Italian defender. Couple of months after that World Cup final, I was watching an interview where they were interviewing Marco Materazzi, the defender that was head-butted by Zinedine Zidane. And he was saying that he actually insulted Zidane in that final. And Zidane reacted in a way which I'm sure he regrets today, because that moment was a defining moment in the World Cup final. And Zidane received a red card for it. And his whole team suffered for him not being able to take control of his emotions in that moment. So I think that proves that if we are able to take control of our behavior and are able to take charge of our emotions and not be reactive human beings in instances that need us to be emotionally intelligent, then we are able to not find ourselves in situations where we act and then we regret our actions in future. And one of the stats that actually were alarming to me were the fact that research says that 90% of top performers have high IQ, so have high EQ, sorry. So if you want to be a top performer, whether it's in sports, whether it's in the work environment or in anything that you do, it's very important to have a high EQ. And what that does is it allows you to be able to shut out the noise and shut out the pressure from other people and focus on what it is that you are doing. So you look at a team like Liverpool as well. 2000 or 2 seasons ago, they made the UEFA Champions League final and they lost it. So someone else would have stuck onto that loss and would have struggled to deal with that failure. But because the team has been able to have high EQ, they are able to deal better with failure, and they came back last season and were able to win the Champions League. So having a high EQ is able to make you more resilient, which will make you a better performer and will actually push you to become better in everything that you do. Sorry, I'm not sure what is going on now, but I think they are trying to share my screen. Okay, I'll just go ahead while we're waiting for the screen to load. So, as I was saying, that emotional intelligence actually makes you a more resilient person. And resilience is what is able to define whether you're able to reach your goals or not in life. So, I think that speaks volumes about why 90% of top performers are known to have a high EQ. And that's simply because they don't give up. It's simply because they react in a way that is defining in moments where they actually need to react. Um, and another thing that actually is very critical in terms of emotional intelligence is if you are more emotionally intelligent, you are able to manage your relationships better, which takes me to my next point. A very, very critical part of being a leader to yourself, which is the portion of managing your relationships properly. Relationships are probably one of the most key things that you will come across or have to deal with as you become a better leader to yourself. There's a quote that says you are the combination of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So if you start thinking about it, your best friend is constantly speaking to you and is constantly a part of your life. So there are certain things that you will adopt from how they do things. And if you start uh, looking down further to other people that you spend the most time with, you realize that there are always things that you'll adopt from those people that you spend a lot of time with. And that speaks to the fact that you become a combination of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So I always make the example that if as a person you are not influencing someone, then you are definitely being influenced by that someone. There's never a middle point. It's always a fact of I'm influencing you every single moment of the day when you are speaking to people. You are either influencing them or they are influencing you. Thank you so much. We are now on relationship management. So yes, I was talking about the fact that if you are not influencing someone, they are definitely influencing you. And it's always a trade that we are always making with the people that we are in relationship with. Whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's family, whether it's friends, you are constantly in exchange of influence, which is why it's very important to filter and to be very sorry about that. So it's very important to filter and to be very intentional about the types of relationships that you have. And this is not just for romantic relationships, it's also for friendships. And if you are a better leader to yourself, you are then able to have empathy and understand better when other people or when you are dealing with other people. So it's always also very critical to always um, think back every now and again and think to yourself, how is it that other people are experiencing me? Because most of the time we get that as people, we always want people to understand us and to always understand how we do things, understand why we react a certain way. Like for instance, if I am in a relationship with someone and they do me wrong and I snap at them, I want them to understand why I snapped. But in actual fact, sorry, there's an echo now. Thank you. So in actual fact, it's always good to always take a step back and think of yourself as the person who wants to be experienced well. And you want people to be able to feel free when they're around you and for them to not feel like they are constantly having to understand you and constantly people to accommodate you, because that makes people to not want to be around you. And I'm a strong believer that we should all strive to become people who are easily accommodated and who easily accommodate other people, because that's one of the factors that actually play into having better relationships. Another thing that we look at is social media in the context of relationships. A lot of the time now, you get that people don't have genuine relationships with other people because they look at social media as the means to showing off the relationships that they have. So some people actually get into some relationships just for the fact that they want to post those relationships on social media, or they want people to be to know that they know a certain someone. So then they end up not having genuine relationships because of the pressure of social media. And this goes on to the next point, which is mentorship. Some people just approach people because those people are known. Like for instance, I've seen so many people when I go into an Instagram live or when I go into a webinar and I see the comment section, people asking, like people like Vusi Tembekwayo, can you be my mentor? And as much as I have massive respect for Vusi Tembekwayo, but some of those people, it's not the fact that Vusi Tembekwayo has got great content and he would be able to assist them in what they are doing. To some people, it's just a matter of Vusi Tembekwayo is a known business person. And for them, they think that them being a part of his clique would give them better social media content, or will give them better social media capital. So it's very important, even in the space of mentorship, to always think to yourself, how is it that this person can actually contribute to my growth? And I was having a live session, an Instagram live session with Davies during the first 2 weeks of lockdown. And one of the important things that he said, which I took away from the conversation, was the fact that the way that we look at mentorship is not the best way of looking at it, because the way that we look at mentorship is not the best way that we are supposed to be looking at mentorship. And he actually mentioned that he has 3 levels that he likes to look at when he thinks of the concept of mentorship. And he said there are upsides, lateral sides, and downsides. Upsides are people that you look up to. And the way that he actually described this made so much sense to me, because I always used to think that ever since I launched the book, or I released the book, I've actually improved as a person, even though the book was for other people. So the way that Davies described this was, it's important as a person that every single moment in life, you have people that you look up to, which will be your upsides. Those people are the people that you look up to and have certain aspects of their life that you would like to adopt, or certain characteristics from them that you like to adopt. And then you have people who are in line, or who are bilateral to where you are. And those most of the time are going to be your friends. But there are friends that are actually going to be able to have discussions with you that will make you a better person, that will push you, remind you who you are and where you are going. And then one thing that most people actually don't consider is having downsides. Okay. I hope you can hear me through the sound. Okay, I'll just continue, it's fine. So in the space of where I was talking about upsides and having people that you look up to, and also making sure that the people that are at your level are people that you are able to have good discussions and conversations with. It's also very important to have downsides, which will then become people that you are able to lift up and people that you are able to help. Because those are the people that will actually push you and will keep you on your toes, because you'll know that you have people that are looking up to you all the time. You'll know that you have to have the correct information, because those are the people that will constantly be feeding you with questions, wanting to know more, which will in turn ensure that it keeps you on your toes. And then the final concept that I'd like to dive into is delayed gratification. There's a challenge that's been going around. I think it was called the something snack challenge. But it was basically a challenge on social media where mothers used to take marshmallows or snacks, and the fruit snack challenge, yes. So mothers take fruits or snacks or marshmallows. I like to use marshmallows. In my book, I actually use marshmallows. They take those snacks and put them in front of their kids. For me, this was a mind-blowing challenge. It was one of the very exciting challenges for me because it's a concept that's very close to my heart. And they put it in front of their kids and they tell them, do not have a marshmallow before I come back. You'll get it, but you have to wait before I come back, and then you'll be able to have it when I tell you that you can have it. And then they leave. And they leave the kids for about a minute or two, and then they come back, they ask them, did you have a marshmallow? And that gap between when the mother was there and left and when they come back is able to test your resilience. It's able to test your self-control, and it's able to test your leadership skills to yourself. So most of the time, when the mother leaves, because the kid is a kid, they'll want to take a marshmallow and taste it. Some actually do it and try to hide it so that the mother doesn't know that they actually did it. And some actually wait for the mother until they come back and they are able to get more. But so this was actually a scientific test that was done some years ago. And it's widely known as the marshmallow test, where kids were locked into a room and they were given marshmallows and they were told not to have those marshmallows. If you don't have it for a certain amount of time, then you are given a second marshmallow. So then you have two marshmallows. And if you don't have the two for a certain amount of time, you're given another one. So then you have three marshmallows. And if you don't have the three for a certain amount of time, you are then able to get a fourth one. So what that teaches you is the concept of delayed gratification, which is a very critical skill in life. And the kids that were tested in that room were actually then followed through to varsity and to other aspects of their life as they grew to see how they did. And the kids that were able to wait it out and were able to understand that keeping the marshmallow and not eating it will actually give you better results in future were seen to be doing better even when they were older. So it's very important that in everything, in understanding your relationship, you understand the concept of patience. You understand the concept that as much as we all want to see and all want to taste everything right now, it's good to wait it out and understand that our journey is not the same as everyone else's journey. And if we are able to wait until the moment where we have to eat, until the moment where we can actually enjoy the fruits of our labor, then we will be able to enjoy it with added fruits, with profit, and we'll be able to even enjoy it with more people. We'll be able to enjoy it with our families and with our friends, just because we understood that we, the more that we are able to be patient now, the more we'll be able to enjoy our fruits in the future. And if we have the emotional intelligence and we're able to manage our relationships correctly, then when we enjoy these fruits, we'll be able to enjoy it in the company of our loved ones. So thank you very much. I think as a leader to yourself, if you are able to touch on each and every aspect that I've mentioned today or tonight, then you'll be able to become a better person tomorrow. And that is what we all should be striving to do. Thank you. Can I just open this session for questions? If anyone has a question, then they can feel free to actually ask questions. Feel free to send your questions, guys. You can ask any question and we'll just dive into that. And I see here that the slides will also be sent in the group. And hopefully they'll be able to assist you to remember the five, I think it's 5 things, the 5 things that I've actually mentioned here today. So I see a question that says, can one master or learn emotional intelligence, or are you born with it? So intelligence is basically even the intelligence that is known as IQ. It's known as the ability to learn. That's the definition of intelligence. So when one says emotional intelligence, it means that it's the ability to learn how to deal with your emotions correctly. So yes, one is able to learn emotional intelligence. And I think it's just the more you practice it, the better you become at it. Because if, for instance, one person were to push me, the first response would be you want to react to that. But if you're able to control it the first time, and you're able to control it the second time, and you're able to control it the third time, then you become better at being able to control your emotions. So yes, emotional intelligence is actually a learned process, and you are able to become better at it the more that you practice it. But it's also very critical and very important to learn what it is that triggers certain emotions from you, what makes you angry, what makes you happy. So every time that you are able to understand what makes you feel certain ways, then you become better at emotional intelligence. I hope that answers your question. Second question I see here, what if you can't control your emotions no matter how hard you try? So for most people that say they struggle with controlling their emotions, it's because of certain things. Like for instance, if
No, what?
let
And I didn't like anything.
like for instance, if let's say I have very, very light skin or fair skin, and kids at school always tease me for having light skin, I'm gonna be very responsive towards that because it doesn't make me feel good. So once you understand, you won't be able to understand it if you don't take it into consideration and ask yourself why you react that way. But if you then are able to put yourself in a position where you ask yourself every time where you snap and you have a certain emotion, you always sit down afterwards and ask yourself, why did I react that way in that situation? Why did I react that way in that situation? Then you'll be able to conclude and understand why it is that you are always responding that way. So once you're able to identify the triggers, then you can actually be able to deal with those triggers. And that being aware of the triggers should make you deal with them better. I hope that answers your question as well. Next question is, when you were talking about mentorship, you mentioned the upsides, lateral sides, and downsides. So I want to ask if we are downsides, upsides. I think, yes, you are your downsides, upsides, but at the same time, I think one thing that I've learned about mentorship is that, so I think about 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I was going around asking people to be my mentors, but now I look at it differently. I now look at it as part of relationships, which is why I went straight from talking about relationships to mentorship, because I believe that mentorship is actually something that should almost come naturally, organically is the word. It should come organically. For instance, if there's someone that you know could help you in something, you can call them and ask them for advice. And then the next time you need their advice, you'll call them again and ask them for advice. The third time you need their advice, you call them again and ask them for advice. What's happening is it's starting to develop as a relationship organically. Maybe the fifth time, they will be the ones that call you and ask you, that thing that you spoke to me about the other day, how's it going? How did it go? So then you are starting to develop a mentor and mentee relationship. So you can look at downsides, generally look at them that if you are their upside, then they are your downside. But you can only be sure of that once you actually have an actual relationship with the people. What if the people you are friends with only encourage your bad side and never try to rebuild you? That should be ringing alarm bells, because I think as people we adopt. There's a bishop from Zimbabwe, Bishop Tuda Bismarck. He said we catch more than we learn. So especially as parents, children will catch what they see faster than they will learn what you try to teach them. So if our friends are always encouraging our bad sides, it's going to be very easy for us to catch that before we try to make them catch what we are trying to teach them. So we can always try to make them see things from our side and try to influence them with the positive that we want to influence them with. But it's more difficult for that to happen than it is for us to actually catch the bad that they are trying or always encouraging us with. So what I would say in that instance is always try to respond with the positive or encourage the positive, even when they are trying to encourage the bad. But don't entertain those encouragements. Don't entertain the bad side encouragements. Just always try to respond with the positive and try to counter the negatives or the bad that they're coming with positivity. Is being shy a lack of emotional intelligence? So yesterday I was watching a video and the video was talking about how people perceive charisma and perceive people being outgoing people as people who are better leaders because they are able to talk more than a shy person. I'm a very shy person. But I've heard many people saying that my emotional intelligence isn't bad. So being shy isn't really a lack of emotional intelligence. In fact, I think there are more emotional intelligent people who have a bit of shyness in them than there are who don't have a bit of shyness in them. Because most people who are reserved are actually people who do a lot of self-introspection. So it's people who always sit down with themselves and have proper solid conversation with themselves, which is a very critical skill in being a leader to yourself. And sometimes shy people don't react because they are thinking about how those actions could actually impact other people. So not necessarily, but sometimes, yes, it could be a sense that being shy could be a result of being or lacking emotional intelligence, but most of the time it's not the case. I think it's just not having confidence. For instance, if I'm going to play a sport that I know I'm very good at, I'm not gonna be shy in actually executing that because I know, I'm convinced. But maybe in an environment where I understand that I'm a reserved person, I'm not gonna have confidence to go to go to the dance floor and drop some dance moves because I understand that maybe my dance moves or in a social space, I'm not a very social person. So I understand those limits. So that makes me to then draw back and my shyness is actually exposed because I understand that I'm not a very social person. So in a social space, my shyness is able to become exposed. But emotionally, it doesn't necessarily mean that you lack the intelligence. I hope that will answer the question. And I think we've covered all the questions. If there's anyone else with further questions, I am. If you cannot maintain eye contact with people, is that a bad thing? Is it a lack of emotional intelligence? Well, eye contact, most people receive eye contact as respect. So, which is very tricky because from where I'm from, I'm not sure about maybe some Nigerian tribes, but from where I'm from here in South Africa and my tribe, if you look at an old person in the eyes, or if you make eye contact with an old person, then that's deemed as disrespectful. So growing up, that was always in the back of my head. So I struggle to make eye contact because of that. If I make eye contact with someone, to me, it seems like I'm disrespecting them. But as a European, if I'm speaking to perhaps a colleague or a business associate who is white, then and I don't make eye contact with them, then they would perceive that as me being disrespectful. So that's the tricky part. But I don't think eye contact necessarily is a lack of emotional intelligence, but it can be a lack of confidence in what it is that you're actually delivering to people. So it's always good to make eye contact. One, eye contact will actually help you read the situation. It will help you understand how the person you're speaking to feels. It will help you understand the mood and feel of the environment that you're talking in. But as I've mentioned, being or growing up in a space where making eye contact was deemed as disrespectful, then that could actually impact how you make your eye contact with people. But in essence, I don't think it's a reflection of a lack of emotional intelligence. Yeah, I think that's about it. So thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope that I'll be able to visit Nigeria very soon. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Okay, I just got another question. Can everyone be a leader? Um, Everyone is a leader. I'm a strong believer of that. But your first assignment is to lead yourself. We all want to be captains in school. If you're playing for a soccer team, if you're playing for a rugby team, if you're playing for a football team, a hockey team, we all want the position of leadership where we lead other people. But your first assignment is to lead yourself. So everyone is a leader. It's just that we always look at leadership as a position, and I don't look at it as a position. It's just a responsibility that we have with other people. But if we first put that responsibility upon ourselves to lead ourselves and become better leaders to ourselves, then we can actually become better leaders to other people as well. So everyone is a leader, and everyone can become a better leader to other people if they can just be aware that they are leaders to themselves as well. What is the role of followership in becoming a leader? So I've seen a quote that says, if you don't have followers, what are you leading? And I think I can confidently say that you are leading a vision, but your vision is as strong as the number of perhaps people that are actually able to believe in that vision. So it doesn't mean that your vision is weak if you are still the only person that believes in it. It doesn't make you less of a leader if you are the only person that believes in that vision for that moment. But at some point, you have to elevate and become a better leader to other people as well. So followership, I think, or I guess, is just that stamp of approval to say that other people can also believe in what you believe in. But it's not something that you should be chasing as a leader. What you should be doing is chasing your vision. And along the way, you'll be able to actually gain that followership. Can a person be a leader and a follower at the same time? Yes, you can, because if you're leading yourself somewhere, you have to be able to follow yourself there. So if, for instance, you say, this week I need to do this thing and this thing and this thing, you have to be able to follow through and actually be able to do those things by yourself. So yes, a leader can be a leader and a follower at the same time. And if you are a good leader to yourself, and maybe at work you have a manager that you report to, you'll be a better follower because you understand what it is that's required from the person that leads you and how much it takes to be in a position of leadership. So good leaders actually make better followers because they are better people to lead.
Valide.
Leading through the mirror. Can I explain, please? So, as I've mentioned, the title of my book is called Leading Through the Mirror, and it's taken from the concept of standing in front of the mirror, which is something that we all do every single day. You go and you take a bath, you get out of the bathtub, you get out of the shower, you go, and as you prepare to, or as you're getting ready for when you want to go, you stand in front of the mirror and you use the mirror to get dressed. You use the mirror as a reflection. You use the mirror as a reflection of to assist you as you prepare yourself, and whatever truth that you get from the mirror, you take it as it is. I've never seen anyone go in front of the mirror and there's something on their nose or there's something on their ear that they need to remove, and they tell the mirror that no, you're lying, that's not there. Whatever they see in the mirror, they take it as truth and they fix whatever it is that they have to fix. But half the time, if people around us are telling us that we have to fix certain things in our lives, we start making excuses to defend ourselves. But that's not how we should be. What we should be doing is we should be using those people and the advices that we get as mirrors to be able to make ourselves better people. So if you surround yourselves with good mirrors, then you are able to prepare better for wherever that it is that you want to be going, or the destination that you've envisioned for yourself. Who should take up leadership position more, male or female? Uh, I don't. I don't think it's a matter of gender. Um, I strongly believe in the concept of inclusion. Um, so everyone should be able to receive an equal opportunity in leadership. So whether the person is male, whether the person is female, it doesn't matter. It's just a matter of has the person applied the right principles? Has the person applied the 5 things that I've mentioned today? If it's a female that's applied the 5 things that I've mentioned today, then they will be a better leader to themselves. If it's a male that's applied the 5 things that I mentioned today, then they too will be a better leader to themselves and to other people. So both males and females can be great leaders, but it's just a matter of making sure that everyone has an equal opportunity to those leadership positions. What if you're always downgraded amongst your peers? Will that affect your emotional intelligence? Um, it probably would affect your confidence and how much it is that you believe in yourself. But how you react is then a reflection of your emotional intelligence. So you would constantly have to keep telling yourself that you are not what the other people think. And in actual fact, you aren't, because everyone has an opinion. I've seen people as influential as a Busi Temawayo. I've seen people as influential as a Donald Trump, as a Cyril Ramaphosa, who is our South African president. Those people have shown that they are good leaders to themselves, actually, because they've become successful in what they are doing. But the way that they do it might not appeal to everyone. So that should tell you that people have different opinions, and you'll never satisfy everyone. So you'll never satisfy everyone. And it's important to understand that, which is why I always say that everyone has a different journey. So the minute that you're able to understand that, you take away the pressure, and you take away the sting of people downgrading you, because you understand that you won't appeal to everyone. And when you are able to understand that, you are then able to actually improve your emotional intelligence. How, and guys, please feel free to unmute and ask questions if you would like to ask questions in that way. How does a person differentiate between a good and bad mirror? That is a very, very good question. So because you are the you because you are the holder of your vision, you'll be able to understand where it is that you need to go. But the minute that you have upsides as mirrors, then that, as you look at the things that they are doing on a daily basis, how they do things, you're then able to use that as a reflection and as a mirror. So your upsides are good mirrors, or can be good mirrors, but they are definitely mirrors. Your lateral sides are mirrors as well, but you should be able to then differentiate between the good and bad ones laterally. And how you can do that is you can look at where you would like to go and then start thinking, if I continue with this or if I do this, how will that influence where it is that I want to go? So, for instance, if someone gives you advice, and if you look at the advice, if you want to be a speaker, and they tell you that, you know what, if you start a YouTube channel and you are constantly giving people advice, or you are constantly speaking and create and developing an audience for yourself as a speaker, that would actually take you a step closer to where you want to go. So what you'll do is you'll look at where it is that you want to go and think, okay, I want to be a public speaker. I want to be an internationally recognized public speaker. And this is the advice that this person is giving me. And you see the link and how those two things link up. So that person can actually generally be a good mirror, but not every advice that you get from a person would mean that because that person is a good person, doesn't make that person a good mirror. So you should be able to take each advice and each session with someone and look at it individually and be able to see how that advice would actually contribute to where you want to go. What is the effect of a lack of emotional intelligence in leadership? So, as a leader, or maybe let me start talking about this from a follower's perspective. So, as a follower, if you have great emotional intelligence in an organization, that will make you to be a person that people enjoy being around because you have good emotional intelligence. So you are a safe space for people, which means that you will be a top performer. As I've mentioned, you'll be very resistant, which will mean that you won't give up easily, which will make you a top performer in the organization. People will like to be around you. You'll be a great addition in any organization if you have emotional intelligence. But if your boss doesn't have emotional intelligence, what are the chances of you staying even though you have great emotional intelligence? If your boss doesn't, you won't want to stay too long because you won't enjoy being around them, because being around them doesn't make you feel good. Being around them makes you feel like you are looked down upon, you are downgraded. Being around them makes you feel bad when they snap out of emotion, out of anger. So being a leader who lacks emotional intelligence might actually make you break down relationships that could actually help you in developing your vision and actually help you in creating a good organization. It could make you lose out on top talent because people cannot stay in a toxic environment. And having a lack of emotional intelligence can create a toxic environment as a leader. So you definitely don't want to be a leader who lacks emotional intelligence because you are not able to hold on to people or top talent or human capital. Does a person's self-esteem affect their emotional intelligence? Yes, it can. Because if you are known, maybe when you are growing up, people always used to tell you, you're ugly, you won't become anything in life, you'll amount to nothing. That affects your self-esteem. So if when you grow up, someone else or you get into a relationship with someone and they start telling you that you're ugly or you won't amount to nothing, you snap. Why? Because that reminds you of something that used to happen when you were younger, where people used to tell you that you'll amount to nothing or you won't, or you're an ugly person. So it can affect your emotional intelligence if you keep reacting to it or if you keep responding to it. Um, so yes, a person who lacks self-esteem has a bigger challenge in actually becoming better uh, at their emotional intelligence. But emotional intelligence doesn't necessarily um, go hand in hand or is not necessarily perpendicular to self-esteem. It does, however, contribute largely uh, to emotional intelligence. So it can affect it, yes, but it doesn't necessarily mean that a lack of self-esteem is exactly proportional to a lack of emotional intelligence. Okay. If we don't have any questions, then I think that would be it for tonight. So thank you so much to everyone for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And feel free to contact me even on social media if you have any further questions. I'm keen to respond to those questions. So thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope we are all able to make a positive contribution. And I hope we are all able to take the right steps in making ourselves better leaders to ourselves.
Singular noun plus singular verb. So neither student nor teacher is in the class. So we should put SS wrong.